Hello there. Today we're talking about one of the easiest to use, but in my view, most underutilized tools available to us in business. And that is the topic of metrics. Now, we use metrics all the time, whether we fully appreciate it or not. We use them in the kitchen to see how long we need to heat something through in the microwave or in the oven, and we check to see how long it's got remaining. When we drive a car to a destination, we look at the signs and a dashboard to see how far we've come and how far there is to go in our journey. We look at how much fuel we've got or battery life we have in the car, and some other data that informs us about the journey. But they have one thing that links them together, and that is the potential for behavior change. Metrics have the potential to adjust our behavior to current circumstances to help us make progress. And that's what we're going to look at in the next few minutes. So stay tuned. Hello there, Ian here once again, and it's a pleasure to be able to be with you. I hope this is catching you happy, healthy and strong. So metrics. This has come up in conversations quite frequently over the last several weeks, and I recall one particular conversation with quite a senior insurance agency leader who'd asked for some help, and I got onto the topic of metrics. He says, oh yes, we collect a lot of metrics and data. I said, fine, how do you use that in your meetings? How do you discuss them? And the response was, oh no, we don't really talk about them. So there's a huge opportunity going missing there for adapting our behavior to keep making progress. So we're going to look at three things relating to metrics. We're going to look at what we measure, how frequently, and how we display and use the data to change our behavior. So first of all, what do we measure? Well, metrics have two key classifications. We have lagging indicators and leading indicators. The lagging indicator is the result that we really want to achieve. It's like the destination in a car journey. It's a project that we want to deliver. It is a milestone for this quarter or for this year. It's the key result that we are after in this period. The leading indicators are what we have to drive in order to achieve the result. We can only drive leading indicators. For example, if this is a project that we want to deliver, that project has many steps and mini milestones and things to achieve and get done along the way. We have to drive these in order to achieve the project outcome. So, metrics have two classifications. We need to measure them both, but we can only drive the leading ones. So that is what we measure. So number two, frequency. How often do we report on metrics? Now, obviously it depends on the project that you are pursuing at this period. Some metrics are able to be collected on a daily basis, others not so quickly. But the golden rule I would encourage all companies to do is maintain at least a weekly cadence of updating your key metrics. Now, some of them can be done on a daily basis. The number of calls that were received, the call waiting time, the number of appointments that were booked, the number of deliverables in a project. Sometimes that can be done more frequently than weekly, but the golden rule is make sure that whatever you're measuring, you make it current at least on a weekly basis. Imagine playing a game, any game, where you can only know the score several days after you've actually played the game. That's how a lot of companies operate. We can work hard, but we only know the score after the management accounts were published a month later, or sometimes even a quarter later, after you've done the work. Well, imagine trying to play a game like that. The team members really aren't part of the game if they don't know the score for several weeks after. And the opportunity for behavior change gets lost. We could have adjusted our behavior well in advance if we'd have known sooner what was happening with the data. So, some can be done daily if that's okay, and you can, fine, but try and maintain at least a weekly cadence for your key metrics. So that is what, leading and lagging indicators, how frequently, at least weekly. So how do we use that data to its best effect? Well, there are two main things, that is display and discussion. How do we display the data? It doesn't really matter. Many times in companies that I've worked with, people suddenly start thinking about the complex solution. I need a real-time digital display and some moving images. No, you don't need to be anywhere near that sophisticated. A company that I read about, did I read about it or did I hear about it? I can't remember. But it's a very, very simple thing for a complex installation. A power generation company was going for listing. And when you become listed, of course, you have to provide the market with information. And the leadership team were getting quite stressed about how to collect all the data from all of the different power generation sites in order to share that with the market. And when it came down to it, initially, all the analysts really needed to know, all of the reporters needed to know was the number of gigajoules that were generated that day and the planned outages for the next 6 months. I think it was a 6-month period. And someone said, wait a minute, if that's all they need to know, couldn't we make one phone call at about 4:15 in the afternoon to all of the sites, and whoever's on duty in the main office just looks at a big dial that says the number of gigajoules generated that day. It's right there on a display or a dial. So we make the call, we note the number, the guy reads it off, and we put that in a spreadsheet or a report along with the planned maintenance for the next 6 months, which we know well in advance. We can just say what power stations are going down for what work over the next 6 months. And that was it. So what looked like a very, very complex solution involving wireless network connections and real-time displays, what appeared to be complex had a very, very simple solution. So your metrics can be a piece of paper on the wall, a simple graph with leading and lagging indicators. They can be a whiteboard with color pens and markers. It does not have to be pretty, as long as it's updated at least weekly and you have somebody responsible for doing it. So how to use the metrics comes down to display and discussion. Display doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to be current. Discussion. How do we discuss these? I've got 3 little simple tools to help you with discussion. Score, story, action. In your regular meetings, you look at the score. You take a moment or two to look at the data, look at the score. So that's the first bit. You've got to take time to intentionally look at what the data is revealing to you. Score. Story. What story is that telling us? Is it up, down, or the same? Every set of metrics has a story behind it. There's no magic. Every score has a reason for how that score showed up. So the second element of discussion is the story. What is the data telling you? And then, of course, all that is useless unless you act. So the last element of score and story is action. What are we going to do in light of the score? How do we adjust our behavior to that circumstance to maintain our progress? Remember the currency? If what we're looking at is already a month old, we probably missed an opportunity. But if we adjust our behaviour based on current data, we've got a great chance to maintain or improve our progress. I really hope that that did make sense. I hope it gave you some ideas. Metrics are extremely useful when it comes to behaviour, as long as we measure the right things in the right frequency and we discuss them and use them to the best effect. So I really hope that that did give you something to think about, gave you some ideas, and I'd love to know how you got on. So until we share again, take care of each other.